for science. That's what this book is about. Welcome to the Ponderings of Pete. I am Pete, and this is my channel. If you are new here, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you coming in. And I hope you're willing to give me a subscribe down below and all that other administrative stuff. There's a bell. You can set it to all that jazz. There's also a like button. And most importantly, there is a comment button if you really want to say something. And I would love you to. I really value the interactions I do get from people that do comment. So if you had thoughts about this book, if you hated it, if you loved it, if you want to read it, tell me. I'm always happy to reply and talk to people. If you are coming back, hello again. I appreciate you tuning back in. And honestly, please just commenting is actually just like, hey, I love you too. Today we are going to be talking about Lady Trent, or specifically the Memoirs of Lady Trent, Book 1, which is A Natural History of Dragons. This is a series that is written by Marie Brennan in an autobiographical context, if that makes any sense. So she's writing as if she is Lady Trent, and it's great. This is a short book, and I think the best way I can describe this is this feels very like a very comforting book. It's not overly dramatic, and it's really just wholesome and great. I mean, it's about a woman who wants to be a naturalist. She specifically wants to be a naturalist regarding dragons, because in her world, dragons exist, and there's been very little in terms of scholarship on them because it's hard to study them for a lot of different reasons that are explained in the book. This lady, she is living essentially in a Victorian era England. It's very evocative of Jane Austen from my perception, at least in the beginning parts, and I think Marie Brennan portrays this very well, specifically in that the culture is not a monolith. So in Victorian England, it was improper for women to do things, specifically be scientists in this case. And she takes that culture and doesn't define every single person in it as a monolith, an example of this culture. So all men aren't just like, no women. But our heroine finds supportive voices in the community. Our heroine finds, just like her own father's like, okay, I'm going to do what I can to support you. Doesn't mean that every single person that supports her is like, yay, down with the patriarchy. Just like every single person isn't up with the patriarchy because it is the only way. And that's something I really appreciate about this book, is that the characters are people. And they grow like people, as characters should, because I know it's a book, and books have characters, and characters should be people. So that is one thing I appreciate this book for. This book, as I said, starts out Jane Austen, turns out a little bit of Indiana Jones. There's a lot of different things going on here, and this is a fantasy world, but sadly, there's no map in this book, which is kind of annoying. But this thing feels so historical to a certain extent that, it makes sense that there's no map. You can really just overlay, oh, she lives in England. Basically, they go to locales that feel familiar if you read about those locales before. So this book feels very familiar to a certain extent. They're not doing crazy bug people things. They're just doing, hey, normal people, but normal world. But there's also dragons. And I think this is a great concept. Lady Trent herself is a really great character. She is very creative and really down with the science. And it portrays her as a realistic scientist. It's not an overly tropey book, even though there are some tropes that are touched upon. And again, it's just really, really comforting to read this book. I wanted to say more, but I really can't without going into spoilers or talking about the rest of the series. So I will save that for when I review Lady Trent number 2, which would be The Tropic of Serpents. Definitely pick this up. I'm going to try to put out reviews for all of these books and then a series review when I get to the end, just because I think that more people should know about these wonderful, wonderful books. Thank you so much for watching, and get some rest, because rest is super, super, super important. Bye.